What's going on, guys? Straight out the lab. It's Ty, it's Santi. We gonna tie on the amygdala and magic mushroom correlations. Some new epic science has come up from the guy that was doing so much studies on the amygdala and that whose research was twisted up. And now from that research we have medicines like benzos and Xanaxes that are kind of doing a job, but they not doing a job, and that's why we're in this opioid crisis kind of now, where these drugs that was supposed to relieve anxiety are not doing so, and now they're being used for other purposes. So just tie with me, guys. Combine our minds with our hearts, connect those two circles, and let whatever come out just come on out. T-A-I, not T-H-I, like the food. Thank you guys for having the Tai'versation with me. Hopefully you're having a wonderful morning, evening, night, midnight special, whatever time is coming at you. Enjoy this energy. Take part in this atmosphere. And as I was saying, let's get down to the get down. The amygdala is located in your brain. And we tied on this connection before on the Just Tie Now show, but some new information has come forth to my attention from a person that was at the frontier of studying the amygdala for years, and he is a prominent neuroscientist, and he was recently broadcasted on the Joe Rogan podcast, where Joe was able to talk to like good two hours, so he's able to get real in depth and break, like pick his mind, and I was there too, like taking notes because it was a lot of bells ringing, so many bells ringing in tune with the psychedelic experience and the brain, and actually seeing still learning how this body works. If this is a simulation and we're here, this you operates off of these chemicals, off of the brain processing things and how the brain works. That's what's here. That's how this is. So the mind body connection was still very awesome, and I love that he brought this up. His name was John Legook or Leduc, something like that. Leydon. I can't remember. Sorry for butchering your name, but much respects. But he was tying. He wasn't really, yeah, he was tying. I was tying too. About the amygdala and how before we keep going, let's tie on what the amygdala is, or what they've been saying it is for the longest of times. Where's that Amy slide? Here goes a picture. The amygdala is located in your limbic system. Now, according to John, he was saying, he was describing the how we came along in evolution, and the amygdala through their studies as well is how is our response to fear. Is our response to fear, is our emotions. Our emotions and how we respond to scared faces, happy faces, and things like that. I have a science study that we're gonna go over. I'll give you a preview to it real fast. From right there, we're gonna go over that REFE. That was like talking about how psychologists use responses to happy and sad faces in order to see what a person is going through, and then they put an fMRI scan and see what's going on in their brain. But the amygdala has been known for a long time, for the long time, to be our fight or flight response. I put a lot of stuff in my own language too. So if you taking what he's saying, if y'all want to know what he was saying, just check out the Joe Rogan podcast. But I'm gonna tie it out. So it's like our fight or flight response. Like when you in a situation, you walking down the street, you in the hood, somebody's staring you down because they just saw you coming from the ATM machine or something like that, or they just know it was your payday and they saw you getting off the bus off to work, and you like, oh gosh, what's going on? Not even what's going on. You just feel a tension, and that tension, depending on your behaviors in the past, is like, am I going to run, or pull out your strap, or do something like a fight or flight, whatever go into each or either category. And this is for the longest was been said by scientists that the amygdala purpose. Let me get this focus right. The purpose of the amygdala. Who? The purpose of the amygdala was to control how we respond to outside stimulus when it comes to fear or happiness, so that we can know how to do it and how to maneuver and things like that. So based off of he was saying, based off of the evolutionary process, how we had to survive, we have these things built in us, in our genes. But as well, I want to tie in there that through epigenetics and through how we experience nurture as well as nature, like gene expression, as well as the environment that we grow up in, that we are experiencing, and how that is in turn plays with our gene expression, how our genes are playing out, and that is like part of the overall expression what's going on. So it's a symphony going on. It's a symphony going on. But we're gonna tie on the how we've been talking about how scientists been looking at the amygdala. How science is looking at the amygdala, because the way it's going to tie into psychedelics is wild. It's really wild. It's cool. So let's get through this base. It's the fear, and what he was postulating though was that, or not even postulate, he just straight up said that when he first was putting out his studies and results to the media about how the amygdala was working based off of what him and his colleagues were doing, it was kind of too complicated for him, because he was saying how the amygdala controlled the unconscious fear, and the frontal neocortex controlled the conscious part of fear, like what you're actually thinking about, like, oh gosh, I'm going to run, I'm going to shoot, I'm going to dip my head, I'm going to say like dictate a response by seeing a past or present, a past or a future, and like judging based off that. But he was saying that the amygdala processes the unconscious part of fear. But when the media heard it was too complicated, so they mushed it all together. And he said since he wasn't so vigilant in putting his word out there, he just let it all play out. But now, because he let it all play out like that, benzos, Xanaxes have now arrived on the scene, and they target. Oh, I got it right there. Bang. Benzos and Xanax have arrived on the scene because they have an effect on the amygdala. But we see how now people that's taking Xanaxes and things, they still have this anxiety. They still have this anxiety about them. It's just like they're toughened, they balls are bigger about the situation. They able to take a lot more shit, but they still have that anxiety about them going on. An awesome example that John used, I'm going to twist around once I say it out. He was saying how a person can have anxiety about going to a party and take a drug like a Xanax or alcohol, go be at the party, and then still have the anxiety. And this, now I said it out loud, my own example, this played out in my own life. Like, I had a lot of bundle of nerves, and when I was at Westchester College partying with my friends and stuff, I still had this thought anxiety about me, but I was comfortable because I was pre-gaming, drinking before going out. I wasn't into popping pills and Xanax and stuff, so I wasn't as groovy as much as the other people, but still, they still have thoughts too. That's why I see how people get a certain repertoire about themselves, certain representation, certain persona about themselves when they zant out. Like, I could tell when a person's zant out, it's in their voice. They start like talking real slow, and their words not really as connected. It's just like, what does it even matter, bruh? Like, let's chill out, man. I don't even know what the deal is about all that rat shit over there. But it's like real slow pace, and it's because that's why I brought up this slide. It attacks the GABA receptors, and it's a lot of GABA receptors that's located in the amygdala. So they did this. They made these medicines based off of like kind of dumbed down the research, and they were getting results, and that's why they continued it. But another awesome thing that he brought out, the neuroscientist brought out, was that no new drugs that are created to benefit people health have been created since the 50s and 60s. Just more antagonists, just more copies and ways to get it better, like changing chemicals around and getting it from different sources and things like that, manipulating the genetic structure. But it's all the same medicines that we had since the 50s and 60s. So, and they're all been used off this research. They all been developed off these research. Like he was saying, the way that they're developed new drugs is by seeing a mouse go through something like anxiety, and then testing the mouse out with different substances to see how it reacts to it, to see how if it can accomplish that feat now, get over that fear, or if it gets more fearful or something like that along those lines. So this is fascinating to me because this around the same time LSD and mushrooms were being experimented on by not just people out on the lawns that were also having these awesome experiences that they just didn't have the neuroscientist knowledge to explain, but also psychologists, psychoanalysts were experimenting with LSD experiments in order to see how the brain was reacting to fear and happy stimulus. I gotta take off this. It's like choking my neck. Happy stimulus. But look at how much money though. Look how much money has been made off the benzos and off the Xanax. Like kinda ever since then. Ever since then. And they just made the other stuff illegal. The stuff that just grow out of the plants, out of the dirt from the soil. It's wild and it's truth without any conspiracy on it. This is what was happening. One was made illegal and the other one was not. And look, and one is making so much money now, and now it's going to probably be repurposed for other uses, since people kind of seeing that don't really do what it's supposed to be doing. But they're not going to go away. It's in all your songs. So now these plant medicines is what's being researched around the same time. So about the GABA receptors. The GABA receptors. Wait, that's the wrong one. GABA receptors is a chemical messenger that is widely distributed in the brain. GABA's natural function is to reduce the activity of the neurons to which it binds. So it inhibits the brain. It brings down the brain. It dumbs you down. Some researchers believe that one of the purposes that GABA serves is to control the fear of anxiety experienced when neurons are overexcited. And this was their hypothesis. So alcohol and Xanax, they bind to the GABA receptors in your brain. And that's why you feel this numbing effect. But it does increase. I see how it increased after a while. Response to negativity. We're gonna get into all this. We're gonna get all this. I'm not gonna let my brain jump around right now. I'm trying to keep a little on track. It's still jumping around. It's all still free flow. So let me just let it go. Yes, but this is what they're doing. The effect of these medications, which are classified as benzophenines, is to enhance the natural effect of GABA. In other words, they help GABA to reduce neural activity even farther. This is why these molecules help calm us down. And that's really dope, because that we have them actually naturally too. So you can get the anxiety out of yourself. These work with the chemicals in yourself and know what's there. You can start getting some cool results. You just gotta know yourself. Know the universe. GABA receptors are probably the most common kind in the mammalian nervous system. It's estimated that close to 40% of the synapses in the human brain works with GABA and therefore have GABA receptors. Because of this property of GABA receptors, GABA is classified as an inhibitory neurotransmitter as opposed to excitatory neurotransmitters such as glutamate, which augment the nerve impulses in the neurons. Oh, GABA receptors are chemical receptors. This means that when GABA binds to them, they change shape slightly to allow ions to pass through their central channel. This channel mainly allows negatively charged chloride ions to enter the neuron, thus reducing its excitability. Wow, so it reduces the excitability. So it reduces its excitability by allowing ions to pass through the central nervous channel when usually they're not able to. Yes, and this is how the drugs work. That's how they work. So was so let's get to the next part. Let's get to the next part. And there goes a picture of the amygdala. If I didn't show it to you already. The amygdala is part of the limbic system. You have a right and left amygdala, and they're relocated in your right hemisphere and your left hemisphere of your brain. I'm getting this all together. Just Ty, guys. Thanks for sticking around. Because we're going to get into, I have an article that's tied, that was done by different doctors that was studying the effects of magic mushrooms, MDMA, and LSD on the amygdala. So I want to get into this, and then we're going to keep the snowball rolling. We're going to keep the snowball effect going. Just keeping the track of my train of thought. Well, a train of thought. Okay. So, my brain just like went away for a minute. It's like, oh, what were you talking about? Nah. But yeah, the amygdala. Let's get into the amygdala and some cool things that he was bringing up about it, and how I'm gonna tie it in with the mushroom experience, and how he was saying that the amygdala was not how we actually respond to fear. It's not actually fear. It's not actually fear itself. So to break the tie on this in his words too, and kind of his language. When we experience something going on that we need that triggers us, that is something that's happening in the amygdala, but it's not something that's happening to us in our awareness, in our consciousness. And fear happens when we're conscious of what's going on in the amygdala, in the brain. So tie with me. Mind is not a weird thing. Mind is there. Mind is an actuality. So let's stick with consciousness. I'm using the word consciousness for mind. And they have studied this when using flash subliminals. That's what I mean, subliminals. And when, say that you had a fear, of say you had a fear of old people. Say you had a fear of let's use the example that they had old people or rats. You're afraid of rats. Rats scare you, so you can't even like get over this fear of rats, because as soon as you see a rat, your amygdala is like, whoa, or you're just like, oh gosh, no, I don't even want to look at it. It's gonna squeak, it's gonna freak me out. I don't know just get it away from me before I have to kill it, or before I have to move out, before this, before that, before this, before that, before this. All these things are happening because we're consciously aware of something that our amygdala is bringing to our attention. Like your palms are sweating, your heart is pacing. And they studied this in their labs with the machines, where they would flash a image. Let's say they flash an image of a rat, but real fast while playing a movie. Let's say they playing a movie, flash a movie of a rat so fast that you're not consciously aware that you've seen the rat. But when they play the scan back, the music that your brain was playing back, the fMRI scan, they see that at that moment in your amygdala, it was a response to that rat picture. But you wasn't consciously aware of it, so you didn't feel any fear. You didn't feel any emotion of fear about it because it happened so fast. But your amygdala still responded to it. Now, this makes me tie on people that just like, and I get this too, and I'm getting way better and better by working with myself, and as I'm seeing working with psychedelics, is getting real emotional about things sometimes, or blaming things on emotions, like, oh, this is just how it is, this is how I feel, this is why I'm saying this, and I can't help but say this and that, and like that comes about. And some people, like, that's their whole entirety of life, is this whole like bubble of feeling of, this is why this has happened, because of this, because of this, because of that, because of this. Is this whole narrative, this whole story. And through my trips and stories, I've seen how this every reality, or at least this reality, is a story. And the realities I've been to, is all a story playing out. It's always a story, a mystery playing out, a mystery of saying this is why this is happening, connecting dots, connecting different areas, and saying clues. Like I'm thinking of Scooby Doo in the game. And you know how the Scooby Doo, the guy, the mystery guy, was always a human. It was never a monster. Every single time it was a human. But that's just so big that the tie is going to get. The ties is going to get. Gonna get that message. But to stick to this story that I'm tying on about how this is what's happening in the brain, and this is what they're seeing in their studies, because they would ask the participants questions on what was going on. And he said, well, I didn't see that. So what the cool results afterwards was that now, since they was exposed to that stimulus without the fear getting in the way, without that feeling and emotion of fear getting in the way, they were now able to have therapy about the rat and talk about the rat, or they was able to have a deep meditative self-reflection about what was about the rat and what's really going on with the rat, the ins and outs, why they like it, why they don't like it, where they first saw it, where they heard about it, rats in their genetic history, rats in their family history, rats where they grew up at. Like, they can see what's going on. They can realize themselves and come to a new self-awareness, because they weren't so much feeling the fear when it was coming up in this test. And now this is so correlated to the psychedelic experience, because through my life and dosing myself up and hearing other people's experiences, you get a less sense of fear of things. Like, you still can choose, you're in the player position of being able to choose if you want to be fearful of the situation or not. The same anxiety arises at points. That's why people get confused when they say, oh, I had a bad trip. And then you hear seasoned vets say, oh, there's no such thing as a bad trip, only challenging trips. And you see the memes where they say a person first going through facing their shadow self or something like that on psychedelics, and they like running around like, ah, but the seasoned vet, that meme, they on fire, and they just like calmly like, yeah, just still smiling, just still smiling. This is an actuality that I witnessed in myself, and I'm seeing in other people, like True Life. Shout outs to Booker. He will say, man, I'm seeing twisted bodies right now, but you're not getting to me. You're not going to phase me right now with this mushroom. Like, I've seen it before. I still feel the intention. I still want to hit the black and mild right now. They try to tone it down, but I'm not spooked out. I'm not running away from it. It's a choice. And that self-awareness is something that a lot of people have not been in tune with, because the mind-body connection, the conscious and the body connection is so, the information and the tools that we've been given a lot of misinformation. Let's put it like that, without just saying, oh, people don't just want to know, and nah. We've been given a whole bunch of misinformation. Misinformation, man. So if you're enjoying this, Gotta be a robot. So if you're enjoying this, please share this video with your friends and family and continue the Tai'versation. The Tai'versation combining your mind with your heart and letting whatever come out, your mind and your body. So this is us talking about the chemistry, the body, what's going on. So we can consciously use these tools, consciously be self-aware of what's going on and of our actions, and not blame it on a hereditary thought or hereditary gene expression, but be able to change things in our own DNA. When in high dose psilocybin experience and DMT experiences, which is similar to high dose psilocybin experiences like phosphorus DMT, that's all psilocybin is, and oral DMT, and you experience going in, you seem like you shrinking like Adam Man, going into yourself, into, I said it three, I glitch, into your DNA, and being able to now switch things around in ways that are unexplainable, but in an explainable kind of way. That's why this is all a story. All truths are but half truths. Remember that, Tires. All truths are but half truths. But in an explainable way, the science is showing us and us is that it's a conscious thing, using all of the receptors in our brain, in our heart, in our guts, in our livers, everywhere, is using it as a tool. And the more we know what's going on, the more we can be masters of this body. I just had the vision just now of, imagine having a controller with like 50 buttons as opposed to a PS4 controller with like 10 buttons, or a controller with multi-dimensional buttons and things like that, because you're aware of how your neurons are moving or what's going on with your amygdala, your hippocampus, your hypothalamus, upper thalamus, your neural cortex, your heart, your liver, and becoming aware of more sensors, being aware of who you are. And now that you have more controls, now you can press different buttons and use different combinations to enter different meditative states, because you experience different states based off of the chemistry of your body. And that's what these drugs, these external drugs, try to stimulate, and these plants trying to emulate. No, do it the other way around. The drugs try to emulate, and the plants stimulate, because the plants, a lot of the neurotransmitters and the that are found in our brain, and the yeah, neurotransmitters found in our brain, and amino acids and everything, they are also found out in nature. Y'all know, that's why it's not just DMT, but it's an awesome thing that DMT, that is the psychedelic compounds, that are found in these psychedelic compounds, are found out in nature, in grass, in leaves, and trees, and different plants, and even different forms of DMT. Like when it comes to the fungus variety, the psychedelic mushrooms, the psilocybin and the psilocybin, and even the flyallargic, the toadstool, the red and white mushroom, many different forms. Many different forms. So the more I work with plants and find the more plants that's out with nature that's been being used. And I think even research is being done. It has to be done. It has to be being done. They just probably need more funding right now by scientists and chemists that's working with these plant medicines, that's going to derive new medicines, instead of going off the ones based off the 50s and 60s, but make new medicines based off of these plant medicines, really ancient plant medicines that's been used by indigenous cultures around the world for millennia, and now just coming back into fruition yet again. But we can get medicines derived from these plants instead of from just the things they've been doing before. I'm not real up to date on the ins and outs and everything. Like St. John's wort is something that we could be doing. Margwort, psilocybin mushrooms, the ergot from the LSD, the mimosa hostilis from DMT, and all this other All the chemicals out there. And even from probably dandelion or chamomile. We got kratom. It's the research chemicals out there. But I don't promote anything. Do not promote the use of illegal or legal drugs. What you hear on this channel is what is just for documentation, educational purposes. Do not recreate anything that you see or hear on this channel. I think a lot of research chemicals can be dangerous too, like M bombs. It's not acid. If you throwing up when you do acid, hey man, don't do it again. That's an M bomb. You just been boof bombed. But yeah, I love how this was all just coming together. That's how I was like, yo, I gotta make this episode. I gotta make this episode. But let's keep the engine going. Let's keep the engine going. And learning about the amygdala. Get that picture back up there. Let me just make sure I had some notes. I just want to make sure I didn't miss. Yeah, yep. All right. So when it comes to dealing with the mushroom, and even with microdosing and with big doses, how you seem as though you have a reset, and you feel as though that brain scanned under fMRI scans with psilocybin, it seems though everything is connected. Like that's what it looks like. Everything, parts of the brain are communicating with parts that are never communicated before, and neuroplasticity comes after that. The neurons start finding new pathways that it wants to go down. It starts going around trauma. So if the amygdala, if my Thai sense, I'm coming up with this Thai sense, if the amygdala is a collective of behavior patterns and not what's running on the mind, and when we experience these resets and our brains feel like it's on like whoo, then we really resetting things and giving ourselves a chance to consciously dictate to our body, to our tools, go into our code and program a new set of reality. Or to bring it down in more mundane, a new set of ways that you wish to live your life to benefit you and not hold you down, not feel like you got the weight of the world on your shoulders, or that in every scenario you have to respond with this sense of ultimate fear or ultimate defense of having to put a whole bunch of walls up, like in the story of the rat, and how they was able to get it in subliminally but the amygdala was still responded to it, and it got so used to it that when they showed the regular picture, it wasn't no big deal. And these psychedelic experiences in high doses, you experience, if you're going through a trauma or something, you'll see it. You will visually see it. But it's in this other state. But it's in another state where your amygdala is not pumping out all of these responses. I mean, it is, but you're not responding to it. You're not responding to it because you're consciously aware what's going on. Now, if you have a bad trip, so to speak, or a challenging trip, is when you are in your amygdala and you believe that you are just your amygdala, that you are just the chemicals in your body, that you are just a walking bag of chemicals and meat flesh, and that's it. When we really tie on it, that is just one aspect of you. And the other aspect is this consciousness, is the you, is the higher self you. It's the you with the controller in the hand. It's the you, the inner voice, the subconscious. I'm putting all the terms just so y'all can stick to something. Get stuck to something. I'm not trying to get you stuck to my truth. I'm just throwing a lot of things out there. Whistling a lot of bells. Not now more wondering what the hell. But just chilling. I actually did have a little bit left in there. But yes, that causes a bad trip. So this correlation is just very, very just like vivid to me right now. It's very vivid to me right now that and explaining and showing myself how I am a bag of chemicals and as well the conscious and as well consciousness as we always been tying about all this time and exploring and I've been experiencing in these psychedelic realms and now during my everyday experiences. So so to speak, I'm experiencing stuff every day. So, but I'm not making this about me right now. Totally, I want this to be a video about amygdalas and whatever else comes up. So, a way to get through these things, these challenging trips, is to realize what's going on. I keep having a sample in my head of Stan talking to the devil on South Park and him explaining how love and all these other things are emotions. And I guess they put that in South Park because that's a harsh truth that some people say the devil will only say. Well, what do you mean love and emotions is only like something that you choose to go into. That's nothing about the devil. But this is something that is being hypothesized with scientists and the psychedelic experiences, seeing as an actuality, that all of these realms are combined to see to make what's happening now, but it steps back to the more you pull back the veil, the more you see, or the more something was controlling what was once thought to be the only, which was once thought to be all that was. It's like the emotions, like the neurochemistry, the things going on is me moving my hands and all of this is controlled by my brain sending electrical signals to my arms and things, which is controlled by my a lot of receptors in my brain. But I'm trying to tell the amygdala, um, the amygdala, like giving me a set of behaviors to go off of, so I know how to go like set of behaviors to go off of. But my emotions that I'm going into is making me say set of behaviors that I go off of instead of saying set of behaviors that I go off of. Or set of behaviors that I go off of. I mean, it's a set of behaviors that I go off of. Or and then I can't stop going off of. See how all of those are just everything that was just witnessed. So what is emotion? And can that's why I say emotion can be feigned. And during experiences of going repeatedly into these trips, if you're not connected with your body still and not still like want to experience the love, remember to the episode before, like what is love? Love is nothing but a desire, pleasure. And we broke down the etymology of that word too to get to those conclusions. So when you love yourself, you pleasure, you desire to want to be here, you desire to want to live, to want to exist. So then that all goes with loving, and love and real love is knowing everything that's going on. So I'm just going on a tip because I was shouting out to Booker when he was saying that he was scared that going repeatedly these trips, he didn't want to turn into a robot because he was seeing how you start processing emotions differently. Like you start processing emotions differently because you get out of all of that, and that's where I believe true a bigger sense of self-awareness lies, that is going to allow us to get to the next level of human consciousness and allow for evolution in us to take place in our literal genetic makeup, to actually change things in our genetic makeup through our own self-awareness of what's going on and not allowing things to play out in certain ways. But that takes a lot of power that I'm seeing that the psychedelics is one of the main things that really helps. And meditation. But people spend years meditating and never experience the totality of just a 2-3 gram psilocybin experience. Or even in most aspects a 1 gram or half a gram. without doing years of dedicating themselves to an art of meditation, as well as talking it out with somebody else externally. And talking some things out with people externally is very, very awesome. I push it, promote it all the way. But it comes to a point where we have to see things for ourselves, and we have to be our own mediator, our own meditator, our own Anubis judging ourselves, our own shadow, facing our own shadows and talking it out, and doing saying things you would never say to anybody else, even a therapist, even if you with the therapist on a mushroom. But allowing that to come up and take shape so you can know what it is, and then say, oh, ha ha, ha ha, I see this gene expression from a while ago, or I see this coming up from what I used to do as a child. No, not anymore. So you making that decision is in those states is literally changing your brain through neuroplasticity, which is witnessed with scientific instruments in this reality construct that we are in, that we are living in, that's simulated. uh, I'm just seeing some awesome tools, awesome radicalized tools. And if you want to expand on this, please let me know in the comments. We still get into the meat of this story, of everything that's going on, because I have a study that I wish to bring about. Okay. And I think I could stretch this over a little. I think I can stretch this over. But this was an article that I think I went over a kinda in the last one. I'm going to put the link to the description. Let's move that over. Put the link to the description. I'm gonna put the link in the description. That's what I'm gonna do. But this was a scientific article that I found. Let's stay clicked on it. And the glasses. And here it is. Serotonin hallucinogens and recognition of facial expressions, a systematic review of the literature. And here go the doctors. So shout outs to Julia, Flavia, Jose Crippa, and Jose Boso, Gordio Rossi, Jamie Halleck, and Rafael Santos. So I'm just gonna go down here because it's a lot of what I was already saying, but I want to put this out into the world, or into my own mind, but out to the world so we can tie on this. Background. This is the abstract of the background. Recognitions of emotions and facial expressions. REFE is a key aspect of social cognition. Anxiety and mood disorders are associated with defects in REFE, and anxiolytics and antidepressant reverse these defects. Recent studies have shown that serotonin hallucinogens, i.e. ayahuasca, dimethyltryptamine, psilocybin, lysergic acid, dimethyl LSD, and mescaline, have anxiolytic and antidepressant properties, but their effects on REFE are not well understood. The purpose of the study was to conduct a systematic review and analyzing the effects of serotonin hallucinogens on REFE in humans. And serotonin hallucinogens just is saying that they work on the serotonin receptors, the 5H2A receptors. They have some more chemicals that they say also works on, like the 5H2C receptors and the 5H1A receptors. And if I'm wrong, then we're going to see it pop up in a bit. Okay. So I'm gonna explain what REFE is too. Yeah, recognition of emotions and facial expression. So when they say REFE, that's the recognitions of emotional and facial expression. So I'm saying, do you know that I'm smiling? Do you know that I'm smiling? Some people smile like this. I can't. Or, you know I'm mad. Can you recognize that? That's how, and we're gonna see how they break that down. But that's how psychologists like recognize, because people with mental disorders and anxiety, they recognize faces wrong, or they get things twisted up, and this whole story starts developing. Their brain starts telling them a story, and we're gonna tie on that too. I'm not gonna forget, because something I want to tie on to how they was doing experiments with people who have epilepsy in the past and things. They would split the brain down the middle, and they would do experiments with the left brain and the right brain in the hemispheres, and that's an awesome thing. Yeah. Before we get into that, let me just say that now before I forget. Let's just do it. We just tying it on out because it's just a conversation. They did these experiments where they cut the axioms, which is the strings that connect both sides of the hemispheres of your brain. And the right side controls your all of this side, and the left side controls all of your right side. And the left side they see contains language, while the right side is more unconscious of what's going on. Is more unconscious of what's going on. They did experiments where when their brain was cut, they would flash an image to the right side of the left eye, so it was being received in the right hemisphere. Like go like this. It's like ching, ching. Like it's not up. It's like this. And since the right eye didn't see it and the left hemisphere didn't get to have a language for it, it didn't know what it saw. The person wasn't able to recall what they saw. But when they flashed it to the other side, it had a language. It was able to come up with words on what it was saw, on the facts that it saw, on the facts that it saw. The other thing was like it could have been anything. The left side was like, it was this. I saw that. This is the story. And they did another and that I was about to talk about how was cool it was to me, but it was very cool that once they were able to get once they got I'm gonna get this straight. They found that the left brain is always trying to tell a story to the self. What's going on? What is going on? And I see that as like specifically being bounds of the ego, as we call it. The thing that's saying what's going on, coming up with an interpretation. Because another awesome experiment they did, and shout out to the people that went through these experiments, they what did they do? They cut the brain, and then they allowed, oh man, what did they do? Oh, they like stimulated a part of the brain on the right side of the brain. And the arm started moving. Like he started itching himself. Like, but then when they asked him, and then after a while, he didn't know what was going on. It was just like an automatic response. And after the things was coming back together and stuff, like after the surgery and things was going on, or whatever happened afterwards, and his brain started communicating, they allowed the brain to start communicating back with each other at full capacity. He came up with the story of, oh, I just had an itch. Oh, I just had an itch. What? I just had an itch. Oh, I just had to shoot him. Oh, I just had to do this. I just had to do that. I just had to do this. Or more importantly, my trigger finger was itching. I don't know why I keep tying on guns. There ain't nothing wrong with guns, but just the situation that they're used in society a lot is like bogus. But yeah, that comes a lot. Doesn't that pop up? Doesn't that ring some bells, man? Tire. So That's what had me going. That's what had me going when I was coming across this information. Because for the brain to be able to come up with a story off of something that didn't actually happen and be so sure of itself is, whew, reveals to me a program that is running in humans as just a code. And when we're not at that point of self-awareness, like we're not just, nobody just completely unself-aware. I don't know. And if they are completely unself-aware, then they just an NPC. They just some kind of thing created by the Matrix or something just to exist, to fill in. Like, oh, we needed 20 people on this block, not 18. But that self-awareness sense is really comes in tune during these psychedelic experiences or during near death experiences or traumatic experiences. But it comes to like a more wholesome point of view during these, for me and millions of other people, during psychedelic experiences where you actually going in there, seems like you're going in there with some tools, some mental tools, not the tools of here, but tools that's like you always had, but you just had to recognize that you had it, and that all this time you was just running off of your biological process, so to speak, the programmings of everything you were told, all the genes passed to you from when you were a baby, and everything you did with it ever since then, and all the complicated scenarios that shape up the puzzle masterpiece of your life. All this randomness, all of this randomness going on, but not so random. It's random up close, and the more you zoom out, you're like, oh, well, that's just the color. I can't do it exactly. Follow me, though. Oh, that's just the color blue. Oh, that's just the color orange next to blue. Oh, that's just blue next to blue. I'm keep blue green. There's some green in there. Oh, I got some red. Yeah, I made it that. Oh, wow. Yeah, this is just who I am. I'm tired of describing. Bang. I'm just floating. I see life like that, man. I love this one. And they got a mushroom right there if you found it. If you can see it. But that's kind of what this picture is. That's what this picture is. And they got the mushroom in there. But yeah. Just Ty, just Ty, just Ty. Just think about these things. Just think about these things. Yeah, let's get back to this article. Okay. Method studies published in the PubMed Web of Science, which will analyze the results of the 62 identified. 8 studies were included. Yeah, this the overview. Were included studies involved the administration of a single or few doses of LSD or psilocybin, and most trials were randomized and controlled with placebo. LSD and psilocybin reduced the recognition of the negative emotions in most studies and modulated amygdala activity in these stimuli, which were correlated with antidepressant effects in patients. Both drugs were well tolerated. Conclusion: serotonin hallucinogens reduce the recognition of negative emotions by modulating amygdala activity. Despite the small sample size, results suggest that serotonin hallucinogens show promising beneficial effects on defects in REFE, which is how you recognition of emotions and facial expressions. And and this is from their studies. They're seeing how the psilocybin acts on the amygdala. So when a fearful situation comes up, that person is not just immediately running away, but they're able to see all the ins and outs. They just like, I am that lighter. Or in a more um another sense, they'll say, well, I never wanted to think about my dad leaving me before, but now that he actually did leave me, I see all the effects that it had on my life and how it correlated to me interacting with this and how it led to me doing that and led down this path. And now things can be talked about from that point. Feelings can be reconciled, emotions can be changed. Because emotions is not who you are. Emotions is what we go into. It's a lower level of self awareness. This is like, oh wow, it's awesome. Just tie. So let's get deeper into this article. Social cognition is the individual's ability to capture, process, and generate responses based on intentions, reactions, and behaviors of other people. One of its aspects being the recognition of emotions and facial expressions, REFE. Some studies show that people with anxiety and mood disorders have defects in recognitions of facial expressions. For example, in social anxiety disorder, which is characterized by fear of undergoing criticism or negative judgment in social situations, there is a hypervigilance to facial expressions of fear, sadness, and joy, and these expressions act as indicators of threat or social reinforcement according to the phenotype of the disorder. So according to what type of disorder you're going through, with seeing the faces when you first walk in, you either gonna be like, oh man, everybody's staring at me, I ain't drink enough, or you gonna be like, oh, everybody was waiting for me to get here, oh, party party, hey. Or you could think that everybody, the face they're giving you, that, oh man, they want to kill me for some reason or another. Oh, they want to kill me, or I gotta get out of here. Oh man, I can't handle this situation right now. And that's what scares people too from going to high dose psilocybin experiences or experiencing psychedelics, period, because because there are these unprocessed emotions, and then I don't want to go into that world because I don't know what's going to happen. But the glorious thing about these substances, when used in the right proper set and setting, the proper set and setting, the proper set and setting, the set and setting that is set properly, that you can go into those worlds and deal with yourself, deal with the self. You deal with the self. Just tie and let go of everything that you thought was ever holding you back or holding you down. But it's all up to you. It's not up to me. It's not even fully up to the substance. The substance just shows you, reveals. It's all up to you. It's all up to you. Now let's get back to the science. In the experiment and clinical setting, facial expressions recognition is assessed through task. This is how they do it in an experiment clinical setting. Usually 6 main facial expressions that characterize basic human emotion. That is anger, fear, disgust, surprise, sadness, and happiness are used in these tasks. In these tasks, subjects have to determine the emotional state expressed in the face of an actor presented by him by means of an image, stimulus, without other contextual information. So all they see is the face, no background, no nothing. Inaccuracy inaccuracy tasks, participants may be asked to identify the emotion expressed to the present stimuli or to discriminate between 2 different facial expressions. Example, which of the 2 emotions presented is the most expressive? In sensitivity tasks, different intensities of facial emotions from the same image are presented. Therefore, it is possible to calculate the intensity of the intensity of the corresponding facial emotion so that the expressed stimulus is correctly identified. So that's how they do their ins and outs. And the reason why they pay so much attention, I read some of this already, why they go through so much attention on the reefy and stuff like that is because they seeing how a good mood generally means a better score on the reefy test. And the more chaotic the mental state, usually the worse you score on this test. So that's why they hold this reefy test up to such a high standard. And I hold it up to some standard. I'm just tying on it. We all just tying on it. Cause sometimes we all tie, but I ain't gonna ruin it yet. In the case of depression, for example, the reduction of depressive symptoms produced by traditional antidepressants manifests only a few weeks after the onset of treatment. However, improvement in facial recognition. Yeah, this paragraph important. Make sure we get this. In the case of depression, for example, the reduction of depressive symptoms produced by traditional antidepressants manifests only a few weeks after the onset of treatment. However, improvement in facial recognition defects seem to occur more rapidly, indicating a beneficial effect on emotional processing prior to the reduction of depressive symptoms. So the emotional processing was going down before they were not feeling depressed about the situation. So they were feeling, so they weren't feeling, so what I get out of that is that they weren't emotionally feeling depressed, but they were still showing symptoms of the depression. The person, like, I used to go to the party, I used to go to college parties, and I used to be filled with anxiety, and when I got there, I wasn't filled with it. I calmed down the level of anxiety, but I still had my anxiety about me. I still was me. Nothing about me changed. I just was drunk. That's all. I just was drunk. Now, the me that as I always knew it, which had all of these thoughts, still existed. And I see the difference with psilocybin, how the me I always thought I was is constantly now changing. So now I'm able to adapt to situations and not have it based off of a traumatic situation or off of a depressive thought. So the symptoms start changing. But this is, yeah. In the case of medications, yeah, this is what they're talking about, tying on. In the case of medications used in treatment of anxiety disorders, acute administration of selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SSRIs. You know, people that get the oh, let me put this screen up for y'all. SSRIs, that's what they get some people to shut their imagination off because it's an inhibitor, a serotonin uptake inhibitor. So the serotonin is what gets you all excited. This is when neurons start getting all excited, and this is what was happening with the GABA. GABA works in another way where it makes it less excited. It's still an inhibitor too. Just like these, that's why these medicines was developed all kind of off the wrong kind of information of how to deal with these, to deal with us, because it's just dealing with the chemicals. It's forgetting about our minds. But these plant medicines are doing the job, are helping us do the job in full circle. Mind, body, and soul. Soul, body, and spirit. Everything in between. Consciousness and meat bag. Mind and your thoughts and reality. However you put it in your circles of your friends that make you feel comfortable, or when you're by yourself. They were made to create not to do half the job. So, SSRIs and or serotonin no repurine reputake inhibitors, SNRIs, increase the recognition of happiness, but continuous use of SSRIs and benzodiazepines increase the recognition of negative emotions, while the use of SNRIs decreases it. So benzodiazepines like Xanax and stuff allows you to recognize negative emotions. So that's why I say you be in that vibe. Like the Zen music, man, they only thing they recognizing is all the depressive stuff in the world. And that's what these big pharma and all these things are promoting. Medicines that have us focus on the depression of the world. Why? If I want to just tie, this is me tying. Is it to focus on a sigil? Is it to focus on an energy that then they can get stuff out of? because that energy is always there. So then they can create things based off those businesses, corporations, products, ways to live life based off of that particular fear, that particular way of looking at reality, of having your behaviors set and staying set in those behaviors, and even controlling your behaviors by hijacking your imagination, because you're now used to going into yourself and dealing with the process of your own emotions. So you need them to process it for you through use of songs, movies, or subliminal messaging. Subliminal messaging. You saw with the subliminal messaging how the amygdala still had a response to it and became so numb to it, but it still was there. It's a lot. It's a lot of ins and outs. It's a lot of ins and outs. Tires. So, what are we gonna do? Just learn. Just tie. Develop new medicines if you're a chemist. Develop new art if you're an artist. But yes, the SSRIs and SNRIs, they even if they're up in your recognition of happiness, but continuous use does the opposite and making you recognize negative emotions. Like, it's in there. However, there's much debate about the observation and change emotional recognition with acute SSRI administration, since this has not been systematically replicated. I say replicated. Make sure the mic's still on. All right. Therefore, considering that a antidepressant and anxiolytic drugs currently available are not effective for all groups of patients, and their use is often accompanied by undesirable side effects. Yes, they are. One of the most possible mechanisms of action for traditional antidepressant is the improvement in refi. And C, recent research suggests that serotonergic hallucinogens have an oxytic and antidepressant effects that could be modulated by their effects on emotional processing. The purpose of this study was to present a systematic review of the effects of serotonin hallucinogens and the recognition of facial expressions, one of the main factors involved in social cognition. I'm trying most people get the wrong picture. Like, what are you looking at? I was just going to say hi. Like, that's behavior. That's not what's really on their mind. They really want good things to happen, but they behavior. And then sometimes our behavior we think is, as John put, an ambassador of the mind. So we get it confused and conflicted, and we think that our behaviors, based off our behaviors, that's who we are, and we create a whole story. That left brain starts creating a whole story about what that right brain supposedly was unconsciously doing, like what all the unconscious stuff was doing. The left brain is now making that story. All that chit chatter is now, oh yeah, this then that. This is what was happening. That was what was happening. This happened because of that. That happened because of that. Working alongside the neocortex, which is different in humans, that is not found in animals, and even the what did God say? The frontal probe. Yeah, the frontal probe, which is found in the cortex, is only found in humans. It's not even found in primates. And when they study this part of the brain, they see how it allows us to see things imagine things in the future. This is what they saying. Imagine things in the future, in the past, and make decisions based off of seeing ourselves in different scenarios. That's what the frontal lobe in the neocortex is doing. And even with the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, we were seeing how the neuroscience was putting magnets and seeing how that affected our perception of time. Time in this simulation, time in this reality. It's all science. It's all chemicals. That's what this reality is made. That's what this reality is. And it just keeps going and going. That's part of what it is. It's a picture of what it is. So breaking it down, guys. Breaking it down to a science. Breaking it down to our alchemy. This is just normal alchemy. This is alchemy, guys. This is tying. We tying. That's what it is. We tying. It's the official tie. I'm just really excited. Okay, let's keep it going. All right, so I thought I didn't really have to read all of this part. Yeah, that's how they got the study selection. Identified in bibliographic search results in 62 articles in the first stage of which 22 were duplicates of 40 articles were analyzed, blah, blah, blah. A full test of these references were obtained for detailed evaluation. After reading the studies in full, 7 articles were included in this review, and 1 article was excluded because it used a mind theory test, another aspect of social cognition other than recognition of social expressions. Alright, so yeah, they did. You can go through this article because they scientists, so they put everything there. The seven, the 7 studies were classified. Yeah, let's go down. There it is. They labeled it drugs. Psilocybin. The first study found in Search Way was by Skip Smith and colleagues, published in 2013. They conducted a randomized crossover double-blind placebo-controlled study in Switzerland. It was carried out with 2 groups of healthy subjects. The first group of 21 subjects received a dose of psilocybin. The second group also had a sample of 21 subjects who received a bolus injection of 10 of ketamine. So this was a ketamine and a psilocybin study. This study was used event-related potentials to compare the effects of the 2 drugs on consciousness and non-conscious facial processing. They used the static task, facial affect discrimination, to access the accuracy of the recognition of emotional expressions, neutral faces, and faces of fear and happiness. It was observed that compared with placebo, both psilocybin and ketamine significantly reduced fear expression recognition. In addition, ketamine also significantly reduced facial expression recognition of happiness. So they couldn't really see people who's happy. The effect of these 2 substances were associated with reduction of the evoked potential N170, which is related to the processing of faces and emotions. Both substances were well traded. This result was one of the first to show that psilocybin, 5-HT2A receptor antagonist, modulates the processing of facial expressions. Oh, yeah, modulates the processing of facial expressions. And that's why, like, the biggest thug can have his whole life changed around. His whole life changed around from a psilocybin experience. Whole murderer. Whole thief. Whole robber. Whole cheater. Anything. To further... Alright, let me see where I was at. However, the septile-temporal dynamics of the neurophysiological changes associated with these effects were not explored. To further elucidate this issue, Branzacani colleagues in Switzerland conducted a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled study evaluating Refi neuro compared with the basic, we know what that is, during the effects of psilocybin compared with the placebo measured evoked potentials with electroencephalography. 2 sessions were conducted involving psilocybin, administered orally or placebo 2 weeks apart. It consists of 30 people. They used the facial emotion tech Compared with placebo, psilocybin promoted processing of facial expressions at different regions of the brain and different times. So not just the amygdala, but different places that's processing the emotions, as well as the amygdala, inducing a reduced neural response to fear and neutral faces in the amygdala. Oh, there you go, right there. And parahippocampal gyrus at 168 and decreased response to happy faces in the limbic and temporal occipital area. So depending on the dose, it was affecting different responses to different faces. So at the higher dose, the response to a decreased response, it was even a decreased response to happy faces. At a lower response, it was you didn't respond to fear or nothing. In the higher dose, you wasn't even responding to happy face. You was just in your own zone. You was just in your universe. You was in blast off world. It ain't matter what was in front of you. Don't matter. It didn't matter at that dose. he was take off. This is ground control to Major Tom. I'm all like, I got right there. So let's get back to here. Okay. In the same group, compared the same sample of depressed patients with a control group of 16 healthy patients that did not participate in the original study to access the effects of psilocybin on emotional processing. They used the dynamic tags and evaluated the accuracy and reaction time of neutral faces. And the control group showed a faster reaction time compared with the depressive patients in face recognition, but the difference was not observed at the administration of psilocybin. Furthermore, there was a significant reduction in the reaction time of face recognition, all emotions in depressive patients after the intervention, but not in the control group. There was also a significant positive correlation between the reduction in reaction time in the faces, all emotions, and in Hodina reduction in the depressive patients. Moreover, a reduction of depressive symptoms in patients was noted 1 week after administration of the second dose of drug processed and psilocybin was well tolerated. They got to keep throwing that in there in the end. Alright, so what this is saying, this difference was not observed after the that when you depress, your reaction time is even farther, so-called. So when you have depressive thoughts, it's easier for you to escape out the matrix. Let's just tie it up like that. You're easily going, so you're not going to respond to stuff. But in the control group, that really had much going on. It was little. They still was here, more presence during their psilocybin experiences. But the depressive ones was still like getting things confused or seeing things and just twistedness, the twisting and the twistedness of things. In the same year, colleagues tested whether psilocybin will alter the connective patterns of the amygdala during facial expression recognition. To verify this hypothesis, they performed a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled crossover study using the static task FRET to verify the accuracy and reaction time in the recognition of happiness, anger, and sadness using fMRI. The oral dose of psilocybin. It was verified that psilocybin significantly increased the reaction time for fear, happiness, and anger face recognition without altering the accuracy when compared with placebo. A reduction in functional connectivity was observed between the right amygdala and the left striatum in anger face recognition, and between the right amygdala and the frontal medial cortex during the recognition of happy faces. Oh wow, so it was a correlation. So when anger is coming up, it has to do with the right amygdala. It's felt in the right amygdala. Behaviors come up in the right amygdala and in the left striatum. And in happiness, it's in the right amygdala, and it goes to the frontal medial cortex. And that's how you process that. Where's the left striatum? I don't know. We gotta figure that out. No effect was observed in fear recognition. There was also, more results. Yeah, this is just going over more. I think I'm ending right there. Yeah. Hey, we got a good picture. Got a good roundup. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for watching. Man, thank you guys. I hope y'all got something out of this. And if you have anything you want to add more to this, man, just send it my way. Send it this way. Check out the Discord and all the good stuff. Whoop. Or I could do this. I forgot. Bang. Transition. All right. So what I was saying was that I'm signing out. But thank you guys. I'm not gonna make this all long drawn and out. But we all tie. Wait. Son, I'm gonna look up. Here it is. But we all tie. But do we really tie? Sometimes I don't know, dude. Sometimes I really don't know. Until next time, this is Ty saying Ty always. Whoo! Ty always. And to check out the Just Ty Nail store. If y'all ever get the chance, everything, I'm going to bring it up. Everything goes to the channel. And it's not all loading up right now, but when it does, I will show you. But it's just called the Just Ty Nail Store. It's going to be in the description, or you can look it up. All the proceeds, as we say on Earth, proceeds, but for in actuality, everything goes to up in the camera quality, upper the information, being able to allow me to get the technology to be more creative with the ways that I deliver the art. Not it is a message, it is a truth, but it's not the factual, actual. All you can put a bow tie and that's about tie it up and we done. It's all just tying out, combining our minds with our hearts and let whatever come out, come out. Check out the Instagram is. I stay on Instagram a little bit. Just check it out and stay just keeping your mind aware. Keep your mind aware. And when dealing with these substances, be safe. Love you guys. Adios. This is Santi signing out.